Hey y'all, I'm Radiant. This is Radiant Virtue Ministries, and today we're going to be taking on Esther, Part 2, Chapter 2. I am really excited to discuss the book of Esther this week, especially since we just passed the minor feast day for the biblical calendar of Purim, the Jewish holiday, where we celebrate Queen Esther. I have a little baby boy here. You can call him, let's see, Baby Virtue. I think my husband will be taking him off my hands in a moment, but I didn't want to wait because we're in Chapter 2. There's so much to talk about. So let's get started. You want to take it? All right, my sidekick is gone, but I've got the Bible in my hands, so that works out great. All right, so let's recap. So in chapter 1, we see the king has thrown 180-day party, okay? Queen Vashti is doing her thing with her ladies. Everyone is celebrating. They're on the last round of days of feasting. And everyone from all the provinces of the land is coming to pay homage to how great King Xerxes' land is and how successful everything is. It's great, but Queen Vashti does not come to the table to show off her good looks, beauty, and be by the king's side in front of all the men that have come to gather under the kingdom. And because of that, the men folk did not like that. They thought it would probably cause an uproar amongst the ladies of the land to be insubordinate to their husbands. And if the queen can do that, then heck, what can other women do in their homes, right? It would just cause a big kerfuffle. So with that being said, they decide to banish Queen Vashti. She is dethroned, and there is a new queen on the rise. And so we're gonna take a leap into chapter 2. I'm gonna read this and we'll dive in. So that's just to catch you up to speed, okay? So chapter 2, after these things, when the wrath of King Xerxes was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. I think he probably remembered this later because he was probably very drunk from this feasting. I can imagine if he had to rethink about it and probably got mad again that this woman did not come when she was called, because you have to come when the king calls, right? Verse 2, it says, "Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. What great counsel do you have?" If that's what happens after a breakup, it's like, we'll find you better girls. We'll find you better options, new girls that have been unplucked from their families. Let's find those girls. Verse 3, "And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan, the palace," which we now know as modern day Iran, "to the house of the women unto the custody of Hedge, the king's chamberlain, eunuch, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti." And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now so in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Don't forget the fact that he is a Benjamite. Can you remember who else is a Benjamite that might have been in the other pages that we've already covered? Think on that. "Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah," that is Esther, "his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother." Again, Esther was an orphan. "And the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, to the custody of Hegai, Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women." Let's stop here. So what is really going down here? Okay, this is like the world's biggest beauty contest. I'm in America, so this instantly makes me think of the Miss United States pageant, which of course as a little girl I thought of doing. How could I be a pageant queen? I have no idea. But we all think of what it would be like to wear this huge crown. I have a girlfriend that does pageants and has entered into these bigger things, and it's just remarkable, all the glam and all the beauty, but they go through a lot of work to be beauty pageant worthy. And yet all these women, we know that there's 127 provinces, and they are sending the best of their ladies to be entered into this thing, to have a chance to be the queen of the land. So the fact that we have Mordecai, a Benjamite, remember that fact, Mordecai, who has kind of a daughter figure in Esther that has been submitted to be under this selection of women into the palace, and she is being kept for all her beauty treatments because they are being prepared for this royal opportunity, amen, to be purified, so they have an opportunity to be for the king and be the queen of the land. So it says, and the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. Him being Haggai, this is the eunuch that is watching over all the ladies. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. That is favor upon favor. Have you ever been around a lot of women? I was in a sorority. We did not have sorority housing on campus, but I have been to fraternity and sorority houses. That is a whole different thing, okay? That is a lot of hens in a hen house, okay? And I have some chickens. If you know what hens are like in a hen house, they're pretty, there's a pecking order, and they're pretty aggressive, and they can be intense, like not only on like their best days, but also their worst days, and there's a lot of hormones to regulate going on, and everyone's feisty and catty, and so I can only imagine what a buzzing environment this is. So the fact that Haggai, out of all these girls, he's like, hey, I like Esther, and I like her girls the best. I'm gonna bless her and show her supreme favor so that she has a chance with the king. That is only God's providence. Amen. So, and that's what God can do for us. Like, we are not confined to the circumstances of our story. Like, she was not bound to be, first off, neglected or receiving less than. I guarantee you there were some really impressive families that were being represented here, right? Like, royalty likes royalty. But here it's an orphan girl who's like being favored out of all these girls. So I just love that. It's very encouraging for me. Verse 11, and Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. So he's checking on her, which we already know if Mordecai is able to get access like that, he must be somebody in the king's court. I think we'll learn who that is, what his position is down the line. But verse 12 says, now when every maid's turn was come to go in to King Xerxes, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished. To wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Then thus came every maiden unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned in the second house of the women to the custody of Shazgaz, the king's chamberlain, another eunuch, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she was called by name. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go into the king, she required nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. So do you understand this? This is like, I don't know if everyone is just going to entertain. I don't know what happened behind closed doors in the chamber to make the king want to choose a wife. I mean, that's a pretty intense night to prove yourself. But in this case, Esther didn't rely on any of the gimmicks, and it was solely what was selected by Haggai. And he was like just a savior at this point to kind of guide her. You know, the Lord appointed clearly somebody that would show favor on her, that would give her exactly the right thing after the king's heart, that would separate her from the rest of the other women. And that's a big deal to be set apart like that, and to stand out in such a large crowd. Like, that's impressive. So Esther was taken unto King Xerxes into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. So this is the month of Tebeth. So that would be December, January. So winter, which in Iran is not winter, but I don't know if it's summer. I don't know how the seasons work. Actually, it gets colder that time of year, because I usually am checking what the Middle East is like every day, and it definitely drops down a little bit, but I'm not sure what the landscape would look like in modern day Iran at the time that this was being written. Verse 17, and the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. So here she has been crowned queen. Vashti is no more. This is his new girl. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet showed her kindred, nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. So here is a woman who is Jewish, who has been told by the man that reigns over her right now, Mordecai, father figure, saying, don't reveal that you're Jewish. Keep that to yourself. It's not time. And she abides by that. She uses discernment and she keeps her head down and she keeps that piece of her identity to herself. Even though she's entering into matrimony, she's holding a card close to her heart. Okay, she's not laying them all down yet. And there's wisdom behind that. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on the king Xerxes. And the king was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. So this is historic fact that there was a plot to take out the king by clearly two guys that had his trust, that we were allowed to be close enough to the king, and Mordecai revealed the plot to the king. Therefore, his life was spared. And with that, there is an account that was documented historically saying that this happened. So there is a record saying that Mordecai saved the king. So that's really cool. So there's just a little tidbit there that's going to play out in the following chapters. But I wanted to quickly, because there's so much to go into in the book of Esther, but this is a really fun high moment in the story, because Esther's had a season where she has been set apart. She is no longer living her day-to-day life. She has been set apart, kind of secluded, but with a bunch of other women, being prepared for one chance with a king. She is clearly guided with clearly favor to obtain the king's sight, and he loves her and he gives her the crown, puts her on the throne, and she's a wife. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because maybe you've been in a set apart season and you've been sitting on a shelf or feeling like, what am I doing? Like, I want to get back in the ring. I want to get out there. That set apart time is very special if you'll use it for the glory of God. Before I got married, the Lord ministered to me through the book of Esther, and he made it very clear that I had, despite the fact that I thought I was all that in a bag of chips, clearly wife material, there were things pointed out to me. I believe he used my mom. There's little lamb. She loves the stairs. But I believe that he used my mom to kind of minister to me about how there were a lot of areas that I was not prepared in to be a wife. And he set me apart for a time, and he would tell me to work on homemaking, work on making meals for a husband. You know, how do I prepare myself? What do I look like? What beauty treatments do I need to undergo? What does my body need to be in shape as? And all the things that happened were just very strategic, and it really was through the book of Esther that I saw the value in them. And before that, I really thought I was equipped with what I needed, and it was just, when is this going to happen, God? I mean, clearly, like, this is not hard, but you know what? That time was so needed. I needed every drop of it, and I guarantee you Esther needed that time just to mentally prepare with what was about to be thrown upon her, because she's overnight. She went from being an orphan to, hello, the most popular woman in a kingdom. That's foreign to her because she's a Jew and no one knows about it. So talk about that. She has a secret to bear as well. So I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to point out and just reflect on. And also the fact that Mordecai is a Benjamite. It is said that Esther comes from a royal lineage, and it links back all the way to King Saul. King Saul is a Benjamite, and it is said, as we go through, we'll find who the villain is in this story, Haman, but there's some beef between the tribes based on some history. So I'll share that in another video once we come across Haman, who we're about to meet in chapter 3. But just keep in mind some of these tidbits, because it all pairs so beautifully together. And again, this is a book of the Bible God is never mentioned once, and yet you see how he works, how he thinks, what his heart is every single step of the way. And it really is guiding us to a place of victory. So stay tuned for that. I'm so excited to continue doing a Bible study with you guys. I'll be dropping videos all week. Please thumbs up this video. This is how other people find me, and I know it's gonna be a blessing to somebody else too. So let me know where you're writing from. Leave a comment in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe. Let me know how you found me, and just take care, be safe, and I will talk to you soon, guys. Shalom.